Thank you for the opportunity. I'm the last speaker and inevitably the skunk at the garden party. It's an exciting thing to talk about innovation, but I want to talk about the last mile and where we're failing on it. Here's a list of my disclosures. They're also in the program book. And I want to describe the challenges. Figures have come up a few times, so I won't dwell, but there's two charts here, and I think they're complementary. The one on the left shows the introductory price of cancer drugs since 1965, the beginning of Medicare, until today. And you can see these rising prices. They're adjusted to be normalized, if you will, for a month of therapy and adjusted to a common dollar a year. And this rise you might see as a gradual upslope until you look at the y-axis and realize it's on a log scale. So cancer drugs are up 100-fold plus in the last 50 years, adjusting for the things you would want to. Now, you could say we're getting more for our money. That's probably true, but the graph that complements it on the right-hand side is work of a colleague of mine. I was peripherally involved, looking at the cost per year of life gained of therapies over the last 20-some-odd years. And that cost, again, adjusted for inflation and other sorts of normalizing factors, has gone from about $50,000 per life year to $250,000 per life year. So prices are rising faster than benefits. Another way of saying it is we are on a point of diminishing returns. Now, Lee joked about cartoons. Here's mine. And Lee, fortunately, I was going to say I'm going to need a straw man out here to argue that the market sets prices and that's all fine and don't mess with it. But I want to look at this cartoon that I drew for a second. The way we drive pharmaceutical innovation in the US and in the Western world is built around the notion that a pharmaceutical product has three phases. There's a period of innovation on the left, and time goes from left to right here. And during that innovation period, the agent is not approved, can't be sold, there's no revenue, it has no price. Then it enters the market, it's given all sorts of exclusivities and monopolies and patents and stuff like that. And during that monopoly period, the company can charge a very high price, shown here on the y-axis. And that persists for some period of time. And at the end of that monopoly reward period, prices decline. And that is that blue triangle, this downward slope of price, after which now the drug is in this competitive period where prices are supposed to approximate marginal cost. And for all of us who are free marketeers and love the market and thinks the market will solve everything, or at least a few things, I want to point out that this entire box is defined by policy. What it is that is the standard for approval, how long the monopoly period persists, what characterizes the end of monopoly, which patents are honored, which are not, and even the decline of that blue triangle, how far is dictated by generic policies for small molecules and biosimilar policies for biologic drugs. So the only thing we don't manage of this box or dodecahedron or whatever this is the price when it's in the exclusivity period. So the market isn't setting this, this is policy. So what has this policy wrought? On the left-hand chart shows that the US, in the terms of cancer drugs, compared to the other 8 Western largest economies, has the poorest access to cancer drugs when the denominator is all patients afflicted with cancer. That same denominator shows that we spend the most per patient, including the ones who don't have access, than any of these other Western countries. Across all medications, the chart on the right shows that the US patients are 6 times more likely to have cost-related medication non-adherence than a similar list of countries, not exactly the same, that is shown on the left-hand side. This is what our market-based pricing solution has wrought. This last mile problem exists for cancer drugs, for CAR-Ts, for immunotherapies, for some of the agents that Lee was talking about. The problem is that market-based pricing does not ensure access to new innovation, even though the very purpose of granting monopolies and this reward is so that people have access to new medications that will help them. This defect is clear in pricing and access to cancer drugs. The profit-maximizing price for firms that are monopolists is very rarely welfare-maximizing and certainly isn't, as I've shown on those charts, meaning the most people get the health benefit. And we see it in other areas of specialty drugs, which aren't our topic today, like hepatitis C treatment, where we've had cures since the end of 2013, and only about 1/6 of infected diagnosed Americans have gotten the treatment so far. And I want to point out, related to my drawing, my cartoon, this is a policy failure, not a market failure. These challenges are not insurmountable. What we need to do, or what I would propose, is different actually from what Lee has suggested. I think we should manage all four sides of this box, not the three we currently manage. And the way is through value-based pricing. Value-based pricing is a proposal that's sort of making the rounds, and it has essentially two prongs. That the price of new drugs should be travel in relation to the benefits of that treatment. So you can think of it as qualities and adjusted for other factors. And that would essentially manage the height of the box, the size of the reward during the monopoly period, just as we manage who can be entering it, how long they get to stay, and how fast their competitors come on the market. And it also, the flip side of it is by managing prices, we can also then require coverage for Medicare and Medicaid and commercial insurers as well. This is in contrast, by the way, to Lee's notion of competition. It's not meant as a criticism. It's a different way of thinking about it. And the reason I think that would work is that the reason we seek competition, the reason we layer on copays that impede access is to get prices down. And by the way, it limits access and doesn't work very well to lower prices in the first place. One of the things, or three things I want to clarify. This idea of value-based pricing is not perfect. Okay, all we have to do is be better than what we have right now. The next thing is it's not outcomes-based contracting. This is a pharma drug company ruse that is out making the rounds, pretending to be about value. And the last thing is it's not mortgage financing, this idea that we can afford more expensive drugs if we just pay for them over more years. That is a desire by pharma and by insurance companies to spread out and predict premiums, not to actually save money. Thank you very much.